What's up, guys? Coach Brauer with AI9 Baseball. As promised, we have Coach Ernesto, minor league instructor with the Houston Astros, who's dedicated his time to address some of your questions and look through some of your videos. So, Coach, thanks for thanks for being on the show here.
No problem. Thanks, Andrew. Thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me talk to your organization, talk to your players and parents. It's an honor for me to be able to do this. I know we've been trying to put this together now for a little while.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach Ernesto is actually from the area, very familiar with the Naperville area and the surrounding towns, and he actually reached out to me. So without further ado, we've had a number of players reach out to us with questions, and Coach Ernesto's had a chance to look at some of your videos that you submitted. So let's jump into some of those questions. First question we have is from Josh Berner. He asked, do you have any tips on how to get to the inside pitch a little bit faster?
Yeah, and Josh Berner actually sent us some videos, so let's go ahead and take a look at his video. I'm going to share my screen. While I'm trying to share my screen here, one of the apps that I'm going to use is called Coach's Eye. Coach's Eye is a great video. It's a great video editing app that you can use on your iPhone or iPad. They don't pay me to promote their product, but it's something that it's cheap. You can use it. And it works very well. So here's the video Josh sent me. I'm actually going to pull up a side-by-side with him, and this is another feature of this app, of him and Trout. And I like to use Trout because he's one of the most efficient hitters in baseball. So looking here at Trout, all right, we're going to start from his normal position, and we're going to get to Josh's here and start from his normal position. So the first thing that we're going to look at is something called sway. And when we refer to sway, we're talking about the movement back and forth. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw a line in Trout's head. I'm going to draw a line on Josh's head. And the whole goal is to stay on this line as best as possible as you load and make your forward move. So as I scroll through here, we're going to see Trout. You see how he just kind of crunches down, but his head actually doesn't move farther back. So he's eliminating the sway. If we look at the top here with Josh, you can see how his head starts to get behind that line, changing his eyesight. And as he makes his forward move, you see how his head actually gets in front of that line. So he's accelerating the pitch. And as you get old, like right now, Josh is probably seeing about 60 to 70 miles an hour. As you get older and the pitches throw harder, you really want to keep your head still so we're not accelerating the pitch with the eyes. The second thing, and this is really important to get to that inside pitch, is we want to create what's called a front leg block, right? So if we look at this position right here where Trout's in, you can see how his leg is fully extended. And as I go a little bit farther, kind of like hyperextends there, but he essentially, it stays straight. So if we're looking up top at Josh, and I'm going to break this down here, if we're looking at Josh up top, you're going to see how that knee kind of turns, but it never really extends. And so what the problem with it never extending is it's not helping you turn your hips, one. And two, the whole goal of the body is to fly through explosively to hit the ball, right? But the only way one part of the body is going to fly explosively is if each part stops. So you can't, your shoulders won't rotate until your hips stop. And so the lead leg block, that front leg blocking, allows the rest of your body to just accelerate through and get to pitches on the inside part. So the best comparison I have on this front leg block is, imagine that you're sitting in a car and you're not wearing your seatbelt. If you were to hit a tree, you're going to fly through that windshield, right? So imagine that the person in the car is your upper body, right? And the car itself is actually your hips. So we need the hips to slam on the brakes in order for the upper body to fly through. Eventually, we need the upper body to slam on the brakes so your arms can start to fly through. And when the arms kind of stop, that's when the barrel starts to come out, and that's when you really get explosive and you're able to drive pitches. So those are the two really big things that in order to get to those inside pitches, you really need to focus on eliminating the sway, eliminating that movement back and forth, trying to stay in the center of your body, getting to 50-50, and then really front leg blocking. So making sure that that front leg fully extends, and it allows the rest of your body to come to fly through.
That's good feedback there. A lot of our players have heard some of those similar things in our practices and in our teachings, but putting it in other words and really getting that visual breakdown is definitely helpful. So yeah, good balance, limiting that sway and head movement so you're not speeding up the pitch, and then blocking off that front side so you're not losing any energy and it's actually being transferred into the barrel of that bat. That's awesome. That would lead us to our next question from Tom Doherty, another one of our 13U players. And he asked, to increase your chance of getting a base hit, a player should swing level or should swing with a slight uppercut and get the ball in the air more often.
So this is another great example, and I was looking around for my bat. Can't find it. So I'm just going to pull up this example of Christian Yelich. So Christian Yelich, actually, a couple years ago, perennial MVP, but a couple years ago, he only hit like 30 home runs. And then all of a sudden, this past year, he exploded and he hit almost 50 home runs. I'm not sure if he actually broke 50 home runs, but the big thing that he does is he actually does have that slight uppercut that you're talking about. But why does he have that uppercut? Why does it look like he's uppercutting? And is that the actual right thing to do? So we're going to look here. We're going to get to, so you see there, you see how he has that slight uppercut. We're going to zoom in just a little bit here. Okay. And so
it's probably not the location you want to throw the ball to Christian Yelich.
No, not to Christian Yelich or any big leaguer. You'd be surprised how good big leaguers get when you throw the pitch right there. But you notice how Christian, he's just going up. He's swinging up through the ball. But here's the big thing about him swinging up through the ball. If I were to position this and create 90 degrees right here, that's close enough. That's what a perfectly level swing to the ground would actually look like. Okay, but if we look at where Christian is at right at this in relation to his spine and his bat, it's actually in a great position. So from where he made contact there, and you can see how that's kind of like, that's basically where his spine is, and that's where, if we were to turn that over, it's just going to be the same numbers. So when we're talking about swinging up or swinging level, it's all in relation to our body. So we just have to make sure that when we make contact with the ball, our hands are at 90 degrees. And that's the swinging level and swinging up, in a nutshell.
So swinging level could be stated another way, saying that it's not parallel to the ground, but rather it's forming that 90-degree angle or perfectly perpendicular to your own spine.
Yeah. That's the way it's swing plane. It's just the way it's defined.
Awesome. Next question from one of our other players we have. I'm going to pair it up with another player, two submissions on the same topic, and it's about generating more power. Tyler Ewald asks, how can a smaller player maximize their power at the plate? And then another player in our program asked, when I try to load up and generate more power, I feel like it throws off my timing, and I strike out or I pop up. So any suggestions you have for that?
So you got to look at players like Jose Altuve and, back when I was younger, there was David Eckstein. He was 5'5", and he used to hit home runs all the time. What they do better than anybody else is, one, they have really good clean mechanics. And they have to, because they're competing against guys as big as Aaron Judge. So I'm actually going to pull up the Trout video again, just for an example, but because Trout does things very, very well. The other thing that I'm also going to pull up Tyler's video, and we can look at them side by side and see some good things and some things to adjust, right? So here's Trout, and here is Tyler. Okay, so getting into a great hitting position is all about how you start and how powerful are the positions you're getting into. If you get into really stable positions, you're going to be a very good hitter, right? So here we are. And now we're going to kind of sync this up, and I think they're going to go kind of at the same time. All right, first things first, right? We're going to look at sway. We already know Trout doesn't sway. We're going to draw this line here on Tyler. And you can see that big movement going back, right? So right there, when we're talking about the second question that you asked about loading up. So when I load up, which is this movement that Tyler's doing, is you're making your path longer to the ball. And when you make your path longer to the ball, you have to be either really good at timing, or the pitcher makes a mistake and then you're really good at timing. So essentially at the end of the day, it's a timing issue when you load up. Okay, so we know a little bit of sway here. Now look at the back leg for Mike Trout and look at Tyler's back leg. Okay, so when we do this and we create these angles here, we start to build a house, right? So you see here, he has this position. And if I were to do this with Mike Trout, he's actually going to land in that position. So when Trout lands, I like to call this one a horse straddle position. So if you look there, it almost looks like he's riding a horse. Okay, we look at Tyler on the bottom. Okay, you kind of see how he's in this weird position. He's not 50-50. Okay, and it's very difficult to be in a stable position here. So the back leg is still good. I think this is a fantastic position. That back leg is anchored into the ground, and it's very great for generating power. Where he loses all the power that he may have is right here with this front leg, because it still hasn't gotten to a strength position. As soon as we get into that strength position with that front leg, we're going to be able to front leg block. We're going to be able to extend the leg like we spoke about in the previous video, and we're going to be able to get to that ball and generate a lot of power. Okay. The other big thing is we've been focusing on the lower half, I think, for the most part in these past two videos. The other thing we want to look at is this movement with the hands, right? So Trout's a big, tight, muscular guy, but look at where his hands get to, and look at how tight they are inside of his body. So he's going to do this little move, and he's going to kind of go whoop right in there. Okay. So he's going to stay, I hope this works out well, somewhat in his circle. Okay, if we look down at Tyler, Tyler's move is really wide, and you can see the space. You can see the space that he has right there. Those are my two lines. A lot of space in there. So what we want to do is we want the hands to actually load up in what would essentially be his swing plane. Okay, how do we know what swing plane is? We go to contact. We try to draw a circle from there. And we try to keep the barrel there. Okay, so if the hands were to stay tighter, I would tell Tyler I'd want his hands just to go in a little bit tighter here. And then as he rotates, he's going to use his body to deliver the hands. Okay. Notice how, like, as he's making this move forward, because those hands are so far away from his body, instead of going straight to the baseball, he's actually making a downward move. So instead of going this way, his hands are going that way. Okay. Down, down, down. And now he's making his forward move. This part, now he's going to go straight to the baseball. So this is one, too, that we can talk about if we were talking about that inside pitch as well, that if my hands drop, they're just going to take longer to get to inside pitches. So generating power is about getting to the ball faster, not trying to muscle up and trying to get to the pitches. The faster we can get to pitches, the faster we can accelerate through a pitch, the harder we're going to be able to hit it.
And ways to make that faster, ways to get to that pitch faster, other than all around clean mechanics and talking about having that firm front side to actually be able to throw the hands, was to limit that head sway, again, making sure you're not creating too much distance to actually get to the ball, and then being able to pull those hands in tight to the body.
Now, I know I talked a lot about the lower half, but the lower half does a lot to kind of suck those hands in, suck them in tighter. So if we were to look at like a different sport, if we look at figure skating, right before they jump, the way they twist their hips and they pull those arms tighter allows them to spin faster. So that's what we want to do as baseball players, is we want to use our hips in an efficient way to pull the rest of the body, so it'll pull the hands in tighter, so we spin, so we rotate faster, so we deliver the barrel a lot harder.
So we've talked about getting to the inside pitch and being quick to the ball. We've talked about trying to maximize your power. I have a question from Chris Corzelli. He asked, how can I make more solid contact through the ball and not glancing blows? And to me as a coach, it sounds like he's asking, how can he stay through the pitch a little bit better?
Yeah, and another person who sent us a video, so let's take a look at his video and see how we can help him out. So, are we good? Can you see me?
Yep, you're
All
good.
right, cool. All right, it did something funky there. All right, cool. So again, Chris sent us the video, so we're going to be able to check out his video. The way I did with Yelich, I'm going to go ahead and go here with Chris. We're going to go straight to contact, and what we're going to do is we're going to draw this line. It's a little bit tough part. Whoa. Okay, so we're going to draw this line, and the whole goal about when we do this and when we're looking at these types of swings is that we want to make sure that we stay on this line throughout the entire swing. So if we look, we're going to scroll right all the way to the beginning, and we want to look right about this point. So right when his foot's getting to the ground, this is when you should have set your swing plane. And we talk about swing plane. We talked about with the Yelich video. Swing plane is 90 degrees from your chest, perpendicular to your spine, an L, however you want to think about it. So his swing plane was defined at contact, right? We go, and then we just go in reverse from there. And if we look, you can see how he has a different angle in his bat than his swing plane. So what he's going to have to do is somewhere along the way, somewhere in his swing, he's going to actually have to get that on plane. So his first move, down, right? So we see how the hands are going down, right? Talked about it in the last video. One of the things that, how hands going down affects power. Here it's going to affect, power is actually affected by contact. So if you don't make good contact, you're not going to hit the ball hard. Those glancing blows, like in the question, right? So here you see his hands are down and they end up under plane. So us as baseball players, we're really good, and we really do not like missing the ball, right? Our number one goal is to hit it. So what do? We start to manipulate and try to get the barrel to contact, right? And you see how his barrel's underneath, and now the barrel actually drops. So now the barrel is going to come from underneath the baseball. It's going to go this way, and then it's going to have to go back up, right? So my hand started lower. I feel that in the middle of my swing. My barrel actually drops that low. I feel that in the middle of my swing. All this happening, all while you're moving. And then at the very last second, in order not to miss the ball, you just try to flick your wrist over or roll your wrist over. A lot of times you hear that terminology, wrist roll or roll over. That's because you've lost the barrel underneath. And so you're going to roll over the pitch, and you're going to actually hit a ground ball. So you can see how he hits the ball into the ground. Right? So the whole goal, and the one thing that if the one takeaway that I would have for any player doing this, where your barrel starts is where it should finish. That allows you to start on plane and finish on plane. And you notice how here, you see how his barrel's down in this part.
So when you say where your barrel starts, you want it to finish. That's the saying of your hands start high, you need to finish high over the shoulder.
Yes. And it's that it could be that simple. There's some other mechanics that we might need to look at. Again, it starts with the lower half. If you have a really good lower half, it's possible that it'll clean up a lot of the things that are happening in the torso and the upper body. But this is one of those things. If you just want to focus on this, on focusing on finishing in the same spot. Again, if you get an app like this, you can even do it on your iPhone. There's good markup tools on your iPhone, And it's just getting to contact, getting to the getting this on camera, and getting to those angles, and then you figure it, and then you can kind of self-correct on your own.
So with some of these topics that we've talked about, being efficient and quick to the ball, maximizing your power, staying through the pitch. I have a couple other questions here before we let you go. One of them being from Josh Burner asking, what would be a good workout routine for hitters? So for you, if you were to, I know you could probably talk a lot on this. This is what you do. But if you were to put together a little, week-to-week hitting routine for a youth player, what would be maybe some drills you want to make sure you're incorporating, frequency? How would you actually address that?
So as a youth player, I think they should really focus on doing a lot of body weight exercises. Once you start to get into high school, then you can start to incorporate a couple big lifts. When you start lifting, big lifts are good ones, are like deadlift. Deadlift's a really good one. But the most important thing about those big lifts and things like that is to move right. And when we talk about mechanics and everything that we talked about today, from the first video up until this last video, it's all about figuring out how to move better. And so when you talk about lifting and working out, just make sure you move right. Okay, make sure you can bend down and pick up a pencil the right way. Because if you can't bend down and pick up a pencil the right way, you're not going to be able to lift 400 pounds. But going back to like maybe a specific, maybe not a specific workout, but a couple good exercises that you can do. Anything that involves tension in your core, so planks or anything like that, those are really, really good. So, and the reason is, remember the first video when we talked about the slamming into the tree. So the way our body's going to slam into the tree and it's going to create these breaks across our body is doing those plank positions. So if we can practice those and really be strong in our core, then we're actually going to hit the ball a lot harder. Med ball exercises are really good. Granny tosses. So you have the med ball and then you just toss it straight up in the air as high as you can. Those are fantastic. Those are similar to like those tire flips that you see you guys do. Those are great because it's a full body workout. It's explosive. Anything med ball is explosive. So those are great. But again, right, it's actually more important to learn how to break, so those planks, than it is to actually accelerate. So the better we stop our body, we're actually going to hit the ball a lot harder. A lot of times we kind of forget, like everybody thinks is I got to move faster to hit the ball. You actually have to stop better in order to hit the ball hard. And then the last one, if you're hitting and you're trying to do some things like hitting wise, what you can do is you can hit basketballs. So what it does is, if you're hitting basketballs, it forces your body to slam on the brakes and to tense up right when you're making contact. A big thing to focus on when you're hitting basketballs, don't feel it in your arms. You should feel it in your abs. Like you should feel your entire body just kind of like bracing and stopping and when you hit that ball, and you're going to see how that basketball takes off. Another way you can do the same drill, maybe you don't have basketballs or you don't want to hit your good basketballs. Get an old tire. If you get an old tire, maybe tie it to the tree, and just doing the same thing. And you want to hit the tire, and you just want to brace your core. And again, I can't stress enough how important it is to brace the core, to decelerate, to stop, so that you can actually hit the ball a lot harder.
And then the last question here that's especially relevant, that stuff on the workouts is awesome too. Some of that, to hit the ball harder is not accelerate faster. You want to be able to break faster. I actually personally haven't heard that. So that's some really good feedback. But going on to this last question from one of our parents, it's especially relevant in today's current climate. And that is, how do you keep your players focused when there's a possibility that the season's going to be shortened or there might not be a season at all?
Yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow. It's happening in your world. It's happening in the professional level too, and I'm sure everyone's seen it on the news. It's tough, and there's no one thing to really focus on. But I think the big thing is understanding, is making it personal to why you're working out and why you're training. It's about figuring out your why. And a mentor of mine, he the way he framed it is, in order to figure out your why, you got to ask yourself 5 times. And every time you ask yourself why, it's going to break it down further and further until you get to the root or the seed of why you're doing something. When you can figure out why it is that you're training, why are you practicing, why are you doing these things, why are you doing your homework, you kind of figure out like what it works in tandem with your goals. So for me, when I was growing up, I always wanted to be a professional baseball player, right? So I practiced to become a professional baseball player. And you kind of figure out, then there's steps to become a professional baseball player. You got to play in high school, right? So I go and I try and I played in high school. And then I didn't get drafted out of high school. So I try to extend my career and I played in college, right? But after every step, there's always a goal. I'm always working towards something. So it makes what you're doing, it makes it tangible, it makes it relevant, it makes it worth it. So figuring out your why, understanding how, what wakes you up, and then maybe even writing it down. Writing it down is probably the biggest thing that probably gets overlooked on creating goals and figuring out your why. Because when you write it down, it's real. When you write it down, you can look at it. When you write it down, you can remind yourself. I can't tell you how many times I forget things. I forget my why because I just don't write it down. So writing it down is going to help you remember, remind you, and just keep you consistent. And if every day you can wake up and say, I'm going to practice today for a couple hours, or there's 30 minutes that I can really practice, and that's all you need. But it's staying consistent in all aspects, not just baseball.
Yeah, consistency is key. That's one thing that I really took away from there. There's a lot of good little nuggets in what you just said, but consistency is key, even if it's something as small as finding 30 minutes a day for your workouts or your hitting or your homework, whatever it is, to build that routine. And that's a whole other topic that I'm sure you can give a whole seminar on. But what you've been able to share with us here today has been immensely helpful, and hopefully some of the players and parents that have been able to watch this have been able to take something from it. So I personally thank you, and I also speak for the rest of the people that are watching here. Thank you for your time and sharing your information with us.
No, I thank you again for allowing me to do this, allowing me to speak to everyone. Thank you, everyone that's out there watching this. Thank you for taking the time to watch this. I know we probably have a lot of time on our hands, so we're able to watch this a little bit more peacefully. But just having the opportunity to spread a little bit of knowledge and try to educate parents, coaches, players in baseball it's a blessing.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your time. I'm sure it won't be the last time we talk, and best of luck for you as hopefully the season will resume and you get back to work with your team.
Yeah, can't wait.
All right. Take care, Ernie.
Thank you.